Welcome along to Brands Hatch, the home of MSVT track days, and how appropriate that we've got the MSVT Trackday Championship out here on the glorious Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit for their second round of the 2024 championship. A very full grid of cars, 39 cars took to the circuit for qualifying earlier on. They're already on their formation lap, so we better quickly rattle through the grid for you. Now, we don't have starting drivers that have been notified to us, so what we can do is guide you through the full grid. Pole position goes the way of Nicole Drought, and alongside her is the pairing of Paul McHugh and Whittle Heslop. Row 2 of the grid is John Lemaster and John Lyne at the wheel of the Lotus and the BMW respectively, with row 3 being the father and son pairing George and Jack Wright with their Volkswagen Golf alongside the BMW in the hands of Matt Swaffer. Row 4 is Alan Bull with his Lotus and Charlie Polk, the number 98 car, which is the Renault Clio, and it's the reigning champion with his Toyota, Stuart Donovan, who was fastest of the Class C cars in qualifying, mixing it amongst the Class B cars. He has got the number 91 Porsche that Colin Tester shares with Ronan Quinn for company. Row 6 of the grid, it's Ray Honeybone and Ben Abbott that line up there on row number 6, and Darren Goes at the wheel of his Mini is next up as he lines up there on the next row of the grid, with Mark Russell partnered up with driving solo, alongside him is Chris Dunster and Scott Thompson. Stephen Docker is next up, and he has Nathan McPhail for company on row number 8 of the grid. Then as we head to row number 9 of the grid, it's Alistair Eason and the pairing of Henry Wright and Kevin Glover. Wayne Cockrell is next up with Ben Elgar and Will Arif with their BMW, sitting alongside him on the 10th row of the grid. And then it will be Dean Hyde and Chris Reed, who is partnered with Stephen Goodliff, that are next up. Row number 12 of the grid is going to be Oliver Owen, and it's the Horny Golds, which is Rob and Ashley with their MG, that line up on row 12 of the grid. And row 13 of the grid is Ben Jenkins, who sits alongside the car of Colin Wells. It's Burnham and Voice ahead of Main Gotts, who line up there on row 14. And then it's Robinson and McLaren, McDonald, Howells and Evans that are there on the next few rows of the grid. And then it's Watson and Churchhouse, Stewart and Pugh, Allen and Honeybone, who has opted, Ray Honeybone, to start off the tail end of the field. Hart and Evans, Wilkinson Hughes and Jackson Moore and McEney are the next ones up, and that's as much as we can get through. That's the full grid, but we had to rattle through those last few rows because already the safety car is about to peel its way into the pit lane, and Nicole Drought at the wheel of what was the car that went so superbly well at Donington Park in the Track Day Trophy and won overall, but finished third in the Trackday Championship, is about to get this race underway. They should be in neat 2x2 order. It doesn't look quite as 2x2 as you would wish, but we're going to get the race underway, and we should just about cram the full 45 minutes in before the curfew. So up towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time, the two Hondas go together, the slightly older shaped car of Nicole Drought. There's contact further back. John Lyne gets into the side of John Lemaster. Matt Swaffer disappears off into the gravel trap, and that was just a few too many cars going for the same piece of Brands Hatch real estate there. John Lemaster got away with it at the wheel of the number 65 Lotus, but lost a little bit of ground, whereas for poor old Matt Swaffer, he did not get away with it, and I don't think John Lyne did either. So we may well have the requirement for a safety car with two cars stricken at Paddock Hill Bend. The race continues in the meantime with just localised yellow flags, and leading the way is going to be Nicole Drought, and I think it's the George and Jack Wright Volkswagen Golf that's there in second place. In the background of the shot you can see Matt Swaffer's car, and there is John Lyne's. Yet so the two of them did both end up in the gravel trap there. So they're parked up beside each other, and it was one of those sort of cannonball effects, wasn't it? As one car got a little bit close to another, then all of a sudden they start to cannon into each other, and unfortunately also into the pit lane by the look of things with problems. That is, as the safety car does come out, I thought it might come out, also into the pit lane comes, by the look of things, Ben Abbott at the wheel of his Honda Integra DC5, so he is another car that's got early problems. So safety car is out there, the pack will ease its pace, so Nicole Drought leading the way from the George and Jack Wright Volkswagen Golf. Third is going to be the Colin Tester and Ronan Quinn Porsche, and fourth, it looked as though it was Alan Bull's Lotus Elise Series 1 that was there in fourth place. So he has become the leading Lotus, with John Lemaster having out-qualified him, but having had those problems and was involved in that incident that put Matt Swaffer and John Lyon into the gravel trap. Both of the cars look pretty much undamaged. Let's just get a quick replay of what happened there at the start. So, start of what is a 45-minute race. So John Lemaster is in the dark blue Lotus. John Lyon gets a really good start at the wheel of the BMW, but of course the Lotus can break that little bit earlier. He's up the inside, and then there's a little bit of contact between John Lemaster and John Lyon. I think then Paul McHugh and Will Hislop's Honda also had a light touch, and Matt Swaffer got scooped up whilst he was trying to avoid what was unfolding ahead of him. So just again, one of those typical first corner incidents really, where everybody wants to crack on straight away. And of course, we've got cars which produce the same lap times but produce it in a very different way. John Lyon's car, very quick in a straight line, not quite as nimble as the Lotus through the corner. So John Lyon got the good start. John Lemaster is always going to break that little bit later. That concertina's them all up, and because they're all so close together, unfortunately, they're all on the same piece of tarmac at the same time, and something had to give. Unfortunately for poor old John Lyon and Matt Swaffer, undamaged cars, but cars in gravel, and that straight away is going to either curtail their race entirely or certainly put them a few laps down by the time they've been extracted out of the gravel trap by our very efficient Brands Hatch marshals and the telehandler. I don't think there's any damage to the cars at all, really, just light damage as they bumped into each other. So Matt Swaffer, when he turns around, you can just see the stripes on his overalls. If it wasn't for those stripes, he would look like the Stig, wouldn't he? And they just need to connect the telehandler to the front of John Lyon's BMW. Now, they may opt to drag those cars further into the gravel trap, and I think on the basis of Matt Swaffer is trudging away, I think he's been told, we're not going to pull your car out onto the edge of the circuit, we're going to be dragging it further deeper into the gravel trap and get it totally out of harm's way. The clock will all continue to tick whilst this was happening. So originally this was scheduled to be a 45-minute race. It was slightly shortened because of delays we had this morning. Way o'clock, 10:30 this morning, we had a large incident, not in qualifying for this race but in qualifying for another race that was here at Brands Hatch. That caused nearly a 2-hour delay whilst barriers were repaired and replaced as quickly as possible by the fantastic Brands Hatch circuit staff. But it did mean that then we brought the lunch break forward to 10:30 this morning. Lunch break, not even 11s is it at that point. And then it meant as a consequence of that, we had to shorten some of the races all the way through today to try and make sure we get everything finished in time for the curfew. Because we've then run effectively to timetable, it has allowed this race to be extended again to the full 45 minutes. But of course now we're spending some of it behind safety car whilst we clear the incident. After here at Brands Hatch, something different for the MSVT Trackday Championship next time out. MSV having their first ever race meeting just down the road from Brands Hatch, Liddon Hill in Kent on the 15th of June. Then the championship will head back to more familiar ground as it heads to Snetterton on the 10th and 11th of August. It will be to Cadwell Park on the 7th of September. And something very, very different for the penultimate round of the championship. They will head to another circuit that's now within the MSV group, but they'll be heading across the water. They'll be going to Circuit de Navarra in Spain on the 5th and 6th of October for the penultimate round of the championship, and they'll return here to Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit rather than the Grand Prix circuit for the final round, which takes place on the 26th of October. It is a championship. Of course, they have also within it various series, MSVT, including the Trackday Trophy and Enduro KA, and of course the Mayata Trophy as well, all within the Motorsport Vision Trackdays fold. But this is a championship. This was a championship some years ago. It means that there are 30 points for a race win, 27 for second, 24 for third. That's regardless of the class that you are in. 1 extra point is awarded to each competitor beaten in your class, up to an additional 5 points. You also get extra points if you beat a competitor in a higher class than yours, up to an additional 5 points. And there's also points for pole position and fastest lap in what is this multi-class structure. And the class structure is largely based on power to weight ratio. So the most powerful cars sit in class B, those with between 151 and 175 brake horsepower per tonne. Those in class C have between 126 and 150 brake horsepower per tonne. Those in class D have up to 125 brake horsepower per tonne. But we also have a guest class, which slots in any other sort of production-based saloon, sports and hatchbacks that the organisers give permission to come in. And it may well be that some of those are cars that just haven't been to the rolling road as yet, so they don't know what the power output is. So rather than put you in one of the classes, they put you in the guest class. And what we do always see is a huge amount of variety in the Trackday Championship, whilst we still clear away cars from gravel traps. I can still see through the commentary box windows Matt Swaffer's car is there, so we're not going to be going green at the end of this lap. So likes of Honda, Lotus, BMW, Volkswagen, Renault, Toyota, Porsche, Mini, Mazda, MG, Peugeot are all represented on the grid. So what was that, 11 different marks did I get to there? Something like that across the 39. So really, as ever, loads of variety. Now, we've already had one race so far this year. One of the cars that's in the gravel trap won that race, which is John Lynes, so he is not going to make it back-to-back wins, I'm afraid. Second at Donington Park was the Team Air Supply Volkswagen Golf of George and Jack Wright. Well, they are second in this race at the moment. Third at Donington Park was the Motion Motorsport car of Justin Roberts and Nicole Drought. Well, Nicole is going solo in this one. A lady who's done rallying and rallycross and Focus Cup and things in the past as Nicole. Well, she leads this race overall. Fourth at Donington Park was one of the other cars that was in the gravel and is now making its way back around the circuit, Matt Swaffer. So that car there that you can see with the damage to the front corner of it. Matt finished fourth overall at Donington Park. Fifth overall at Donington Park was actually the Class D leading car, which was the Fiesta Club Racing Ford Fiesta of Henry Wright and Kevin Glover. They are down in 15th in this race at the moment, and the car that completed the top 6 at Donington Park was the Pro-Am racing car of Scott Thompson and Ben Johansson, which is down in 14th position at the moment, the number 12 car, which for this weekend is Scott Thompson, but he's partnered up with Chris Dunster. So that was what happened at Donington Park. And the cars that won their respective classes at Donington Park, well, John Lyne won overall and won Class B. Henry Wright and Kevin Glover 5th overall and won Class D. And the Class C winning car was that number 12 Renault Clio that was talking about. So Matt Swaffer out of the gravel, but looking as though he is not going to continue in the race. The auto-equipped BMW 1 Series in the hands of the former production BMW champion, who's raced in Enduro KA in the past, heads down the pit lane area. I think that now means that, yeah, everything is clear at Paddock Hill Bend. John Lyne's car has been dragged further into the gravel trap, the Donington Park overall race winner, so he will take no further part in the race. Matt Swaffer's car, we know, is back in the pit lane. That was the second car that was in the gravel. The telehandler is back behind the wall, and all of the marshals are back in their respective positions. So we should be good to go racing at the end of this one, with 35 minutes of the race still remaining. Pit window is scheduled to open for 15 minutes in the middle 15 minutes of the race. So 45-minute race. Pit window opens after 15 minutes, remains open for 15 and closes for the final 15. And during that period of time, all of the cars need to make a mandatory pit stop, which is time for pit entry to pit exit of 2 minutes, regardless of whether they change driver or not. So we're about to get the race back underway. Nicole Drought leading the way at the wheel of the Honda. George and Jack Wright with the Volkswagen Golf sitting there in second place, and Colin Tester partnered up with Ronan Quinn at the wheel of the Porsche. They're in third, dives for second at the entrance towards Paddock Hill Bend. Can't quite squeeze its way through, or can it? No. So it's still there in third place, but it has got the inside line heading up in towards Druids and might be able to sneak through. And John Lemaster at the wheel of his Lotus is trying to go through as well and make it 3 wide. There's contact between Volkswagen Golf and Lotus Elise Series 2. So the Team Air Supply Volkswagen Golf still hangs on to it, and that looks like George Wright driving that car by the look of things. You could just see, I think, the dark beard on George's car. Smoke coming from the back of the Porsche, which does not look good, and that may well be the same problem that affected that car at Donington Park, where there was a little bit of oil that was dropping onto the exhaust. It was fully burning off, but that did look as though that again was coming from the tail end of the car. But it's not affecting the speed of the Porsche, which is now looking for the lead of the race, and I'm guessing that may well be Colin Tester that's behind the wheel of it, because Colin Tester is a Brands Hatch instructor here. He knows the circuit well, and to try and overtake round the outside at Hawthorne, you need confidence, and he's done it, and he's taken the lead of the race. So that's the Porsche through to pick up the lead of the race. Nicole Drought sitting there, the young Irish lady, in second position. George and Jack Wright, I think it's George Wright that's driving that Volkswagen Golf there, in third place. Fourth place at the moment is going to be Alan Bull at the wheel of the first of the Lotus cars that's there in third place, the slightly older Series 2 Elise. and it's going to be the Team Rahiba Honda in the hands of Paul McHugh and Will Heslop that now moves up to complete what will be, I think, the top 5 at this stage. As over the start-finish will now come. About 3 minutes to go before the pit window opens. Good fight going on further down through the order. That's the number 15 car, Ben Elgar, sharing with Will Arif. Fighting away with the number 25, James Burnham and Ben Vos, Ford Fiesta. They've also got a Mazda MX-5 in the mix as well, which is going to be the number 67 car, which is David Abbott and Hayden McDonald. And then just off that is going to be Colin Wells at the wheel of the number 6 Mazda, which good to see Colin back out there because he was here racing in the Miata Cup that supported the GT World Challenge event at Brands Hatch just a couple of weekends ago and had a very large accident on the start-finish line. He was fine, car looked rather second-hand, but good to see him back out and racing again a matter of, what is it, 2-3 weeks later? So 32 minutes of the race to go. The race-leading Porsche, having set the fastest lap of the race last time through, 1 minute 46.762. And we're looking at the moment for the battle that's going on way down through the order. The number 6 Mazda is, I think, outside of the top 20 at the moment, but no matter where you look, 25th position is where Colin Wells is at the moment. It doesn't stop him sticking his elbows out and having a good little fight. And the other car we need to keep an eye on is the number 44 Apple Car Centre Renault Clio in the hands of Ray Honeybone. He runs in the guest class for this weekend, and he is starting off the back of the grid and is trying to thread his way through the order. With a good fight going on towards the end of the top 20 at the moment. That is the number 182 Renault Clio of Oliver Owen, under pressure and off and into the gravel trap at Westfield Corner. We might lose one if we're not careful, and I think that was Nick Maingott that's gone sideways into the corner, and his Ford Fiesta has beached itself in the gravel trap, I'm afraid, at the end of the straight, the Derek Minter straight, and that car is going nowhere. The marshals might be on hand to give it a shove, but I think they're going to struggle to get that Ford Fiesta out of the gravel trap. The pit window will be opening in about a minute's time as well. So up towards the conclusion of the lap comes some cars. Down in towards Graham Hill Bend comes what is a fight for the final podium spot at the moment. It's the George Wright, yes, it's definitely George that's driving that car, under pressure from Alan Bull, but it looks so safety car is coming back out again. So as a result of that stricken Ford Fiesta, which was Nick Maingott's car, in the gravel trap at the end of the Derek Minter straight, it does look as though we are going back towards potential safety car again once more. The marshals waving the boards, trying to make sure that the drivers pick up on the fact that they can't overtake. Of course, a few of them slightly unsighted because they're in the middle of a squabble, and I think a few of them wondering why the car ahead had lifted off, taking the opportunity to gain the place, and then they will absolutely hand that place back again as and when they've realised. Let's just have a quick look back at exactly what happened there to Nick Maingott up as they went along the Derek Minter straight. Look towards the left-hand corner of your screen and you might just see it. Right, he was on the right-hand side trying to overtake a car, and I think it was, the Mazda and the Ford Fiesta got themselves together, and I think that was the problem. So I wonder if that was the number 67 car of David Abbott and Hayden McDonald, because they qualified 34th. Nick Maingott had qualified 32nd, so they would have been, one would have thought, in a similar piece of tarmac, and that sort of matches up with the colour of that car. We've got other Mazda MX-5s in the field, but only one of them is blue, and that's the David Abbott and Hayden McDonald number 67 car. So whilst I couldn't see the number of that car, the colour of it matches what you would have expected. Right, pit window has opened, and because the safety car is out there, you would be foolish not to come in under the safety car, because of course the safety car is going to travel around the circuit at a very slower pace compared to racing. So get your 2-minute stop done under safety car, and you will hand yourself a very good chance of being still in the sharp end of this order when we get the race concluded. So to a halt comes Nicole Drought. Adjustment to tyre pressures being done on a number 70 car. The Team Rabiha car is in as well, which is Paul McHugh and Will Heslop. George and Jack Wright, Volkswagen Golf, in towards the pit lane. Darren Goes in the number 22 car in the pit lane as well. Also looks as though the number 88 is in, which will be Mark Russell. I can also see in there one of the Toyotas, which is the Wayne Cockrell car. I can see Alan Ball's Lotus is in there, John Lemaster's Lotus is in there, and the right-hand corner of your screen, the white car with the 2 blue stripes is Alan Ball's, the green car with the yellow stripe down the centre of it is the car of John Lemaster. John's been racing Lotus cars for a very, very good number of years. And as for the extraction of Nick Maingott's Ford Fiesta out of the gravel trap, that is in the process of being done by our telehandler down there. So, clock will still continue to tick, and hopefully it won't take too much longer to get that car out of the gravel trap. Now, the hard curfew here at Brands Hatch is 6:30, and when I say 6:30, that means all of the cars checkered flagged and back off the circuit with their engines killed. Well, that is only now 25 minutes away from happening, yet we've got 27 minutes of the race still remaining, so I understand the checkered flag will come out at 28 minutes past 6 o'clock, so the clock will not quite get to zero in 23 minutes time. Then the clock will have 4 minutes left on it, so we're not quite going to get the full 45-minute race in. It's going to be about 41 minutes, and the race off pit road sees Nicole Drought come out in reality for what will be the lead of the race as and when we get everybody cycled through the pit stops. Jack Wright in the Volkswagen Golf will be second, and the team Rabiha, slightly newer Honda Civic, which is Paul McHugh, who shares with Will Heslop. Apologies, we don't know the starting drivers. That should be third in the race, but the one good thing about the safety car and them all pitting together is they're all going to still be squabbling for the lead of the race. Alan Bull is next up at the wheel of the slightly older shape Series 1 Lotus Elise, followed by John Lemaster at the wheel of the slightly newer shape Elise Series 2. And now that we've got Ford Fiesta out of gravel, we're going to have telehandler parking back behind the barriers. The Ford Fiesta should trundle its way back into the pit lane, so one further lap, one would have thought, behind the safety car. And the difficult thing, of course, at this stage is that the safety car came out to pick up the race leader, and because everybody's pitted, it gets confusing as to who the race leader is. The race leader at the moment is the number 6 Mazda MX-5 in the hands of Colin Wells, but he has not pitted as yet. And the other car that is now up to second but has not pitted is the number 137 car, which is going to be the Will Jackson Moore and Andrew McKenney Renault Clio, which runs in the guest class. I think other than that, everybody else has pitted. So Nicole Drought over the start-finish line. We are still under safety car, but of course what they are trying to do is catch the point at which the safety car is around the circuit at this stage. So there's still no overtaking, because they're all still trying to form the crocodile of cars, the train of cars behind the safety car. And the safety car is right up at Sterling's at the moment. Now we've still got 2 cars that haven't pitted, so lights are off on the safety car, absolutely, and why should they not? Because the race leader is behind it. It is time to get the race back underway, and Colin Wells is going to be leading. He's still got, the best part of another 9 minutes where he can come into the pits in reality. Other cars are still cycling through their pit stops, but we're about to get the race back underway with the number 6 Mazda as yet to pit, leading the way. Is he going to follow the safety car in? Yes, he does. So into the pit lane comes the Mazda. Into the pit lane comes the Renault Clio. So the 2 cars that hadn't pitted both dive for the pit lane, which means that in reality the car that will take over the lead of the race is not that number 67 Mazda, because that has now pitted. It will be the Honda Civic of Nicole Drought, which is the number 70 Honda Civic, that will pick up the lead of the race as and when it comes over the start-finish line. But that car is as yet to reappear off the Grand Prix loop up towards Clearways Corner. And of course, remember, Nicole Drought has got Jack Wright right behind her, then the Honda right behind her, followed by then the 2 Lotus cars right behind her. We are back to green flag racing, but they can't overtake until they get to the start-finish line, so they've still got to hold station. You can only overtake once you get to the start-finish line. You can see that the Team Air Supply Volkswagen Golf of Jack Wright is hugely keen to get on with it. You can't overtake, you've got to be behind still as you get towards the start-finish line, and Jack Wright will be well aware of that, so he makes sure he's behind as he gets to the line, but he also makes sure he's got the inside line when head up towards Paddock Hill Bend, and that was textbook stuff there from Jack Wright. He goes through to pick up the lead of the race from Nicole Drought in second place, and it's the Paul McHugh and Will Heslop Honda that is there in third, and is looking to go around the outside at Druids to try and get the inside line for Graham Hill Bend. Jack Wright bounces off the Honda, and as a result of that it allows Nicole Drought to draw herself back alongside, but it's still Volkswagen Golf from Honda, from Lotus, and now Nicole Drought might drop down to third place as the McHugh and Heslop Honda squeezes its way up the inside, heading in towards Surtees Corner. The slightly newer shape Honda goes through. The Team Rabiha car. Nicole Drought drops down into third position, having led at the restart, and now instantly finds herself under pressure from Alan Bull's Lotus, followed by John Lemaster's car as well. Alan Bull draws himself alongside at the wheel of the Series 1 Lotus, up the inside of the Honda. So Nicole Drought now down into fourth position, and John Lemaster trying to make inroads as well to see whether he can do it. And we've had the change for the lead of the race right the way around the outside at Westfield Corner. The Paul McHugh and Will Heslop Honda moves itself through and ahead of Jack Wright's Volkswagen Golf, the Team Air Supply Golf, down into second place, which was where it finished at Donington Park. He's now trying to re-attack on the run in towards the left-hander at Stirling's. Remember, we are scheduled to have a 45-minute race, but we know the checkered flag will come out at least 2 minutes before 6:30 to ensure we comply with the local restrictions here of usage at Brands Hatch, which means there should be about 4 minutes remaining on the clock, there or thereabouts, when we see the checkered flag fall. So we're not quite going to get to zero, so they know they've got to get on with it. They've got less time than is on the clock over the start-finish line. Traffic just up the road. It's the Team Tyler Motorsport Honda that is going to move out of the way. Amy Allen moves safely out of harm's way. And then also the next of the cars that is needing to be dealt with is the light green Ford Fiesta, which is also dealt with. That will be David Evans, who moves out of harm's way. Does briefly delay Jack Wright, but that's nothing to do with the back markers being troublesome. It's just where Jack Wright met them. He couldn't get on the power quite as quickly as he wanted. Along the Cooper Straight. John Lemaster also through as well, so the top 5 are all through the traffic now. The number 65 Lotus of John Lemaster trying to close on and in on Nicole Drought at the wheel of what was the erstwhile race-leading Honda. Top 3 getting away. Now Nicole Drought this time is going to at least match for pace the Honda of John Lemaster, who cannot work his way through from 5th place up to 4th. But coming out of Hawthorne Bend he was a little bit quicker. He's not going to try anything as they head up towards Westfield, so it's still Nicole Drought in 4th place, John Lemaster in 5th place. Is he going to get the overlap as they come down through Dingle Dell? No, not quite. So the order still remains the same, just that very light flash of the brake lights from Nicole Drought. No sign of the brake lights from John Lemaster as he pitched the Lotus in, not necessarily flat out, but he didn't need to dab the brakes going in towards that corner. And again, he's going to get another good run coming down in towards the conclusion of the lap this time through. So it's Honda from Volkswagen Golf, Lotus from Honda, from Lotus, from Darren Goes in the Mini, who's there in 6th position. All of those cars run in Class B as things stand. Leading Class D we ought to pick up on is car number 153 that leads Class D, which is Stephen Docker at the wheel of his largely grey Mazda MX-5. And leading Class C at the moment is Wayne Cockrell at the wheel of the number 21 Toyota Celica. So those are the leaders of their respective classes at this stage. We've also, of course, got the odd car in the guest class, and you have to look all the way down to Ray Honeybone, who off the back of the grid, remember the number 44 Apple Car Centre Renault Clio came off the back of the grid. Ray is now up into, or was last time through, 17th position. Team Fiesta Club Racing, number 38 car that had a class win at Donington Park. Number 38 car trying to weave its way through the traffic. That's Henry Wright and Kevin Glover's car, sneaking through and ahead of the Chris Reed and Stephen Goodliff car, only for the JCW Mini to have the extra grunt in a straight line and go straight back through. They've also got right behind them Dean Hyde at the wheel of the E30 shaped BMW, and Dean Hyde's going to have a quick attack as if the JCW. Yes, he does. Yeah, fires one up the inside. Dean Hyde goes through and ahead of the Mini. Now this is all for positions, something like 18th, 19th and 20th position this is, that they're all fighting for. That's the one good thing about the MSV Trackday Championship. Always has full grids, always had good variety, and there's always somebody to race with as well. It's the same for the Trackday Trophy that we'll also be bringing you live stream coverage of tomorrow here at Brands Hatch. The Mini's off, I'm afraid, so we have lost the Mini. That's on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, where all of a sudden the car that had been going superbly well, the Chris Reed and Stephen Goodliff car, gets going again. Hazard lights were on. Alt Control Delete maybe, restart the car, gets going again. So with 18 minutes scheduled still to go, Nicole Drought goes up the inside of Alan Bull, and at the wheel of his Lotus also allows John Lemaster to go through, which begs the question, has the Lotus got a problem? We shall have to wait and see. Further down through the order, that's the Mazda going off into the gravel trap in the background. Can it gather up the moment? There's a big cloud of dust in the background and the Mazda eventually appears. So yes, a moment there where I thought we were going to lose a car into the gravel trap, but it rather got away with it, to say the least, which means that now it's just the James Burnham and Ben Vos Ford Fiesta that is left to fight away with the number 15 BMW that Ben Elgar shares with Will Arif. The car that's behind them, I think, is the number 67 Mazda, which will be the David Abbott and Hayden McDonald car. Now we're starting to see a few more problems come up for drivers. Reigning champion Stuart Donovan has got a 1-lap penalty, as has the number 12 Renault Clio, which is Chris Dunster and Scott Thompson. That'll be for pit lane infringement. And are we going to have a change? Yes, we are. The number 15 car going through, that's Will Arif, I think, looking at the crash helmet. So I think that's Will Arif at the wheel of the BMW going through and ahead of the James Burnham and Ben Vos Ford Fiesta. And yes, there were problems for the number 3 Alan Bull Lotus, because it is still limping its way around the circuit. It's going to make it back in towards the pit lane. He is staying as well as he can out of everybody's way, but that car clearly has some sort of mechanical problem. And unfortunately, for a car that was going so well in the early stages of the race, with 16 minutes to go, it's going to be the end of the road for the Lotus Elise Series 1 of Alan Bull, who qualified 7th and was running, what, as high 3rd was he at one point? Something like that. Still the number 39 Honda that leads the way, which is the Paul McEwen Will Heslop car, the Team Rabea car that scored 14 points at Donington Park, so comes into this weekend lying 9th in the championship standings. Got a little bit of bodywork hanging off the car though, by the look of things. Yeah, you can see the side trim. Now that could be a problem if that's deemed to be dangerous, which, you know, arguably it is. If it drops off the car, it could fly into the windscreen of a fellow competitor. He'd be well wise to try and see if he can shed that little bit of bodywork somewhere, because that could potentially bring out a black and orange flag if the officials deem it's the whole back section, isn't it, the bumper that's dragging along the ground. That will be looked at by the scrutineers, so it leads the way. If a black and orange flag came out, it doesn't mean the car can't continue in the race, but it does mean it'd have to come into the pit lane, have that bit of bodywork ripped off and come back out. Well, it only leads by 4.2 seconds. It takes about 20 seconds just to drive down the pit lane at Brands Hatch, let alone the few seconds to get the bit of bodywork ripped off. So that potentially could see that car drop down to the bottom of the top 6. Jack Wright, second place, is exactly 5 3/4 seconds down the road from the race-leading Honda. Still with work to do as well. He's about to place a lap on Colin Wells at the wheel of the Mazda. Nicole Drought at the wheel of the number 70 Honda, the Civic Type R, sitting there in 3rd position, which was where herself partnered up with Justin Roberts were in the Motion Motorsport car at Donington Park. And off goes John Lemaster. That looks as though that's at Paddock Hill Bend, where he's rotated through 180 degrees, and the forlorn sight of a very dusty looking Elise Series 2 sits backwards in the gravel trap at Paddock Hill Bend, so he'll be going no further. And that car has sort of gone, yeah, sideways into the gravel. He's not that far off the racing line, so the car, as you can see, exit right where that curb line is. So that may well mean potentially another safety car. We've still got a good fight going on as well. This is Oliver Owen at the wheel of the Renault Clio. He's fighting away with the MGZR, which is in the hands of the Hornigolds, Rob and Ashley Hornigold. So they are pretty much together as they come up towards the conclusion of the lap. At the moment, there's no signs of safety car coming out. Now, 98 is Charlie Polk. He is fighting away with his Unique Racing teammate, which is going to be the number 88 car. And that, I think, is going to be fourth position as well, himself and Mark Russell. The blue car is just ahead. And by the look of things, the red flag is coming out. So the red flag is out. And for a 45-minute race, I think that is probably it, because there were just 8 minutes and 4 seconds showing on the clock. So it looks as though we may possibly be, now where would we need to be to get to 75% of distance? So we would need 33 3/4 minutes of the race gone, which means we would need left 11 1/4 minutes, and we've only got 8 minutes left, so we've reached 75% distance. So I think, yeah, red flag's coming out perhaps means, I don't know it as yet, but I would suspect that means that we are going to be done for the day, and that will be classified as a result. The marshals perhaps know that as well, or might have heard via race control, because they're already starting to pack away some of their equipment to get ready for what is going to be another very busy day for them here at Brands Hatch tomorrow. Our ever hard-working marshals tried to give John Lemaster a shove, but two marshals versus Lotus Elise Series 2 and Gravel Trap means that Gravel Trap comes out as the winner on that occasion. And by the look of things, all of the cars that are coming down the pit lane are being ushered in towards the paddock area. So yeah, it does not look as though they're going to line them back up for any sort of restart for this one. So looks as though we are checkered flag for that one, which is such a shame. John Lemaster was running in fourth position, but on the basis that he brought about the red flag, he will not be classified in those results, so he will be discounted as and when the full result is issued later on. So such a shame. What was already a shortened race, we didn't get through it all. That wasn't to say that we didn't have some brilliant racing in the second race of the championship season for the MSVT Trackday Championship, and of course we will see Trackday Trophy out tomorrow, and we will be live streaming that as well. And the Trackday Trophy is due to go live around about 5 o'clock, let's say, or just after tomorrow afternoon, if we run to the scheduled timetable tomorrow as well, for what's going to be another busy day here at Brands Hatch. So all of the competitors for the MSVT Trackday Championship heading back down the pit lane into the outer paddock area. For some of them, they will be back out racing tomorrow in the trophy. For others, they will pack things away and head towards Liddon Hill in Kent for the next round of the championship that will take place on the 15th of June. So we won't be able to bring you the results, but we can confirm that the time the red flag came out, it was the McEwen Hislop Honda that was leading, from George and Jack Wright's Volkswagen Golf that was second, and Nicole Drought was there in third place. Those will be the top three. Leading Class D at the time the checkered flag came out was car number 153, which was Stephen Docker, and leading Class C at the time that the red flag came out was the number 21 Wayne Cockerell Divron Toyota. But all of the results we confirmed on tsl-timing.com. Thanks for joining us today for the MSV Trackday Championship. Tune in tomorrow, 5 o'clock, Trackday Trophy. Till tomorrow, goodbye.